I, I feel lucky that we had those times, it's, and then that, you know, sometimes we wonder, did we make a difference? Was it worth it? And then I remember my son telling me, he said, Dad, it's like, all these years you're touring and seeing thousands and thousands of people. And, you make all these people happy. Even if it's for an hour and a half, you make these people happy. And I never, in all the years, I never thought that way, because you start thinking about, are you successful or not successful? Did you make it or didn't you make it? Or, and then that was like, holy shit, that was like eureka.
Please don't go, don't fly away. We really want you to stay.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Rick Levy here with me. He's with a band called The Limits, and they have just released a single called Rachel. Now, we're going to learn a little bit about the song, but before we do that, Rick, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I've been playing music my whole life, as many people have. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. The Limits actually was my first band that started up in Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1965. A couple of the guys have left the planet, are no longer here. But over the years, we would, of course, when we first started as kids, we were doing what everybody did. We were doing Beatles songs, Stone songs, Kink songs, playing high school dances, fraternity parties, pool parties, you name it. We were a good little band, and had a big following in that era. I went on to college in Philadelphia and had a more progressive band called Wax, which had a big recording deal. And that was my first taste of potential fame, and then an immediate fall. It was, oh, this is what the music business is, I guess I could say for some people, it might have been enough to say, screw it, I'll do something else. But I continued on in music. We regrouped The Limits in 1980 with a couple personnel changes. We started our own record label. We recorded vinyl albums and got a good following all across America. I even did licenses in France and England. I really learned about publishing and all these things, which I was always interested in. I was always interested in the business side of music. But my real music career, and that's a very short, short thing. But my career for the last 40 years has been touring as band leader, tour manager with some of the top 60s recording acts of the era. And amazingly, we're still doing it. Currently, I am a guitarist, vocalist with the Memphis band, the Box Tops, who of course had The Letter, Cry Like a Baby, Soul Deep, Neon Rainbow. So, we're still traveling all around the country and sometimes out of the country for shows and stuff like that. Additionally, I'm a professional pottery maker. I make ceramics. So that's my delving into pot now. It used to be pot, now it's pottery. And I sell it on Facebook. I don't make a lot of it. I don't have that much time to do it. But on my Facebook page, which is Rick Levy, people can find me, and that's how I sell most of my pieces. And then I live at the beach in Florida now, in St. Augustine, which is just paradise down here. So I'm in a bike, I swim, I'm into yoga. I'm a single guy, I'm divorced, and live with my dog, and it's a pretty nice life down here. Yeah, I can't complain. Couple physical issues that you and I chatted about, but we keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
That's that. What's the alternative? So
And you're an author.
I am an author. Yes. This book right here called High in the Mid 60s is my memoir, and it goes into much more detail of how I grew up, what drew me to music in the first place, what the business was like in the 60s, which kids all the time, I interact with young musicians a lot because I'm known as a manager, not only a performer. And, I try to tell them how dynamic, how organic, how exciting it was back then because the rules were being written back then. Mm-hmm. Everybody was, it was on a shoestring. And I'm not sure that same excitement is there anymore, since big corporations have taken over the whole industry and, everything's done. And I'm not value judging it, but the fact that anybody can make a record in their bedroom, that's good. Everybody, but it doesn't mean that, that all that stuff is great. Just like in the old days, not everything that was released was great. But a publishing company out of North Carolina, I had submitted my manuscripts to a lot of ones, and a lot of the big ones, just like in the record company, we're not interested. But this pretty cool little publishing company called Crossroad Press picked it up, and it's been doing good. It's out as a book, a digital book, like an ebook, and even an audio book. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
I've never asked anybody this on my show before.
Uh-oh.
But how do you think that if you was to take the technology that we have today, the streaming and being able to do all that stuff in your own home and everything, right. How do you think it would have affected the music back in the 60s?
Wow, that's a great question. That's an incredible question. If you take the creativity that was so abundant in the 60s, because it had to be, you were working with 4-track, maybe you got to 8-track, eventually 16 and 20. This is all analog and everything. So this incredible creativity, to make recordings. Well, if we had the technology back then, like we do now, to do it couple, strokes on a keyboard and infinite number of tracks, it's an interesting question, because the other side of the equation is, would the songs have been any better?
That's my question.
That's my question, because, the proof, they say the proof is in the pudding, and that generation of, let's say, that Beatles era up through mid 70s, that era of songs has stayed so profitable.
Mm-hmm.
Those songs they keep coming up in films, in commercials, in TV shows over and over. And you don't really hear that much, from songs in the 90s and the 2000s. And, and then as it got into rap and hip hop, those songs are very big for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of dissipate. And what interests me about that is that the people in these companies who choose these songs, well, they're not my age. They're not people who grew up in the 60s. They're young marketing people. Right. So even they are seeing something special about these songs. It's like, when we do shows, and talking with the box tops now, and our song was one of the biggest in the world, The Letter, Give Me a Ticket for an Airplane, one of the biggest songs of the decade. But when we do songs with other acts, okay, maybe it's going to be the Turtles, maybe it's going to be the Classics 4, maybe it's going to be the Buckinghams, the Grassroots, whatever. I love to listen to these acts, because the songs are all so amazing. It's like
Mhm.
hit song after hit song after hit song, and it's like, that's a pretty high bar. I think it's great that everybody can make music if they want to. It's easier to do that technically now. But I think the bar for what can get out to the public has been lowered considerably. There is no bar. Anybody can get anything out there. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be, it doesn't mean a lot of people are going to listen to it. You get it out, you hope it can, you hope it can get streamed, and, and just see what happens.
I, I think that it would have ruined things back then. And the reason why is there was a certain magic that was between, say, like producers like George Martin and the Beatles, or, an engineer like Alan Parsons
That's
and
right.
Pink Floyd.
Yes.
You wouldn't have had your Sergeant Pepper's or
You're
Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, that may be very, very true. You may not have had that, having to dig so deep to come up with a concept, and then how to make that concept, how to apply it on tape.
Mm-hmm.
The technologies were being invented in the studio, how to take it to the next level. So that's probably part of the reason, that it was just, it's really hard to, I feel so, and I said this a lot, I feel humble, and I feel kind of so blessed that even in my small way, I'm part of this fraternity of that era that's keeping that music alive, and, it's a great feeling to go out and play it, and, and then, when this particular one, this song Rachel, which was a limit song that was never, probably would have been recorded, I don't know, 74, 75. My then wife and I had lost a baby girl pretty much at birth. We were kids. I don't know, I was 21, 22. We went on to have a son, and, he's a great guy and all that stuff, and, super, super person. But I wrote the song Rachel. We had named her already. And of course, I hadn't thought about this whole thing for a long, long time. And what happened was, one of my original guys from the Limits, one of the original members, found a demo of it cleaning out his closet up in Pennsylvania. It's like the story. It's like the stories you hear all the time. I mean, I found the tape of Elvis. I thought, well, this was certainly not the caliber of Elvis or whatever. But he said, "You want to hear it?" I said, "Yeah, I want to hear it. I haven't heard it," and I literally hadn't heard it in over 40 years. And he sent it to me, and I had licensed all the Limits recordings, and we had a lot of stuff from our 60s, real garage, raw, teenage, cover songs, some live stuff, some rehearsals, our first attempts at writing, and then our later stuff that I had alluded to, all the vinyl we cut, which was all original stuff. I had licensed all that material to a great label in California called Cleopatra. You've probably heard of them.
Yes.
They have a huge catalog, and they've done really nicely. They've supported us really well, and I sent them an email, and I said, this song is really personal. I said, I got to tell you, when I heard it for the first time after 40 years, I was crying. I even called my, ex-wife, and we're friends. And I said, I'm going to email you this, and you might, you might have a tear or two. And it just unfolded a whole series of emotions. And I thought, man, it's great, but it's really personal. It's just really personal,
Yeah.
So I emailed it out to Cleopatra, said, I don't know, do you want this as part of the catalog, just to have it? And like within hours, I got an email back from the president, Brian Perera, and he said, yeah, we want it, and we think it should be a single, a limit single, because it's just, it's really haunting. It's really, I forget the word he used. I think mysterious was the word he used. Recording, just a really haunting, mysterious recording of the song. And I said, I'm game. I'm transparent. I'm not. That's why I wrote, a memoir. I mean, I don't really hide things about myself. So I guess it was a week ago yesterday, it went out on all the digital platforms, and it's starting to gain some traction. I don't even know what'll happen with it. I don't expect that, it's going to go viral or anything like that. But it was, yeah, it was, it just, as a family, between my son, my ex-wife, myself, close friends, from that era, we were all sharing stories. It was like reliving a time, even though it wasn't a happy time, it was an important time. And then to have a record of that time, no pun intended, but, a record of that time, as a song that captured everybody's emotions. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't me and her. It was, our parents, cousins, friends, because how it is. If something happens in your life, fortunately, it's not just us. I would feel badly for people who don't have, some kind of circle that they can share good things. Matter of fact, just yesterday, one of my friends that I grew up with just lost his son. And they were bicycle riders, and they did a long bike trip, and were camping out. The son never woke up, had a heart attack. He was like 50 years old. He wasn't old, and he asked me to make him an urn, because I'm a potter. I'm also I'm a ceramic artist. I make vases and bowls and all kinds of things, and I had only made one urn before, and that was for a high school buddy. And it was like, all day yesterday, I'm sitting at the pottery wheel, and, it just brings all these. I mean, I guess that's one of the blessings and curses of being an artist, because when something hits you, it just takes you out of the real world, man. It's like, it's just, you're in a zone that not many people are in, and it's independent of, are you successful? Are you not successful? I mean, if you can do your art, and art is a very wide thing, it can be economics, can be art, a business plan, building a business can be art, anything. But if you can do that, to me, that's success in and of itself. Mm-hmm. If you can make a career of it at whatever level, that's way better. I mean, I feel I've done okay. I've done this as my life's work. And I live nicely here in Florida. I have dear friends who have, been to the moon and back with success. But none of us really even think in those terms. It's funny. You do when you're young, and I guess as you're kind of just on the journey through it, you forget it, you're just immersed in it, so that's basically, the story behind Rachel. And to me, it'll be just interesting to see, does it get a reasonable number of streams? I don't have to tell you how terrible streaming income is. It's ruined the music business. It's ruined the music business.
Yeah.
you think you're successful because you've gotten 100,000 streams and you make $50 royalty. It's a terrible thing, but it'll be interesting to see if other people tap into the experience.
If this was to go viral, would that inspire you to get the Limits back into the studio?
Well, that's a great question, because we haven't recorded. We've done projects sporadically over the years. We released. We would Cleopatra would selectively drop singles over the years, and then and then of late we weren't always all together to do it. And of course that's one of the beauties. You can do a track, and then I can do a track and email it to you. You don't even have to be in the same studio. So going back to what we talked about, there are definite advantages to the to the technology. So we've done a few that were recorded more recently, and our drummer, he's always writing stuff. I've probably got on my phone about 60 little bits and pieces of songs, beginnings, endings, a chorus, a verse, and but yeah, I think, if there was really a significant response, one that, you could see something, oh, there's always a reason to record because it's fun, but, you could see that this could be a really neat opportunity for the Limits to have another day in the sunshine. That would be cool. That'd be great. Yeah. Even though it was a sad song, a really sad song, but
Yeah. Well, to me, I would love to see some more of these bands from the 60s get popular again and bring back some of that sound.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of bands that are out nowadays that I enjoy listening to.
No, I'm the same way. I'm not tuned into listening all the time like I was when I was younger, just because it doesn't, it doesn't strike me. Sometimes I'll hear something that's great. I'll find out who it was. And invariably, at least for me, even if it's a young band, if I like them, they're doing something that has kind of a retro sound to it. There's something about that you can tell they're doing, it's got the, it has more of the kind of a live organic feel to it. I'm just not personally drawn to like all the hip hop and stuff like that. I find it, it just, it just doesn't speak to me, and it's probably an age thing. But I don't know, writing a song, listen, it's different. We'd write a song, whether it's sitting with a guitar or a piano or something, you'd come up with a melody, you'd come up with a lick, you'd come up with a chorus. Well, most modern stuff is now, they start with a beat. So they start with a beatbox and they come up, or whatever they're using, and then they build it around that, which is okay, but there's a tremendous amount that just sounds the same.
Yep. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. And
same way with today's country music. I don't enjoy today's country music.
I mean, Nashville, like I said, 3 of the Box Tops guys live there. They do session work, and they say, well, first of all, session work is almost done because even country music they're doing in home studios. But it's kind of like pop music with the pedal steel guitar.
That's what I said.
That's exactly what it is. And but it's obviously reaching that young audience that wants it. And the stakes are so big now. When something does hit, it's just enormous. It's just enormous. But like we said earlier, will it stand the test of time? Will it be around 50? Will it be around 50 years from now? Will it be around 5 years from now? I think most of it would not. Whereas whether it's Beatles stuff, Stone stuff, any of the acts, even the smaller ones, those songs, you hear them in a commercial, you hear them in a movie. I mean, we had the letter not only in commercials and stuff like that, and kind of edgy movies, but the letter was also in that kids movie, The Minions. So
was it?
Yeah. So kids, so it's like if we start playing it, and let's say it's a festival family, where there's families and everything, kids will be singing along with "Give Me a Ticket for an Airplane," because they hear it. And I just don't think the stuff of the last 10, 20 years is going to have that staying power. I don't think the industry set up for it that way. I think the industry is also, let's cash in on something fast and just move on to the next thing.
Yep. Exactly.
It's very different. There's no developing an artist. We're going to ride with you for 2 or 3 albums and see, like it used to be. I mean, we couldn't wait to get the second album from a band to see what it was like, from the first one. And then, like, I remember, everybody, like when the Byrds did Sweethearts of the Rodeo and kind of went country, from their jangly Mr. Tambourine Man, Bob Dylan stuff. It was like, some people hated it, some people loved it, but it was like, but everybody was part of that change, and it's a pretty cool thing to, I think of myself as like this kid who just got sucked up in it and somehow was able to scrape and claw and find my way to make a living at it, because there's always going to be a better guitar player. There's always going to be a better singer. That's a given, I mean, now if somebody just sent me an email this morning, a link, 13-year-old kid playing blues guitar. I mean, 13, I was figuring out Louie, and this kid was like Joe Bonamassa, I couldn't believe it, and kids are, they're, I mean, I don't know if they're smarter or the technology's better, learning aids, but, so for me, I figured early on, I've got to learn more. I've got to make myself somebody that would be really attractive to these bands to have in the band. Somebody could do the business. Somebody could, advance the shows. Somebody could, handle the airfares, handle the hotels, do all that kind of stuff. So I became, whether it was my time with Herman's Hermits or Tommy Rowe or the Box Tops, Bo Diddley. I mean, I always did these things. I was like the tour manager, musician, singer, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because in dealing with people in the industry, a lot of people knew me first as a manager. And then it was like, oh, well, it so happens I also play in this band, and so it's pretty cool. And so from that level, I've been able to carve out a niche that, not too many people do.
Right. Well, there's bands. So let's take Carlos Santana, for example. Now, I love Carlos. Music is just out of this world.
Right.
And his relevance kind of went away for a while. But
right.
Then he got together with some of the more modern artists.
That's right. Yeah.
And
I think with Rob Thomas and
oh man, incredible album. I love that whole album.
Right. Yeah.
Would you be willing to do something like that?
Absolutely. If we could, I mean, matter of fact, I tried unsuccessfully, but the Box Tops are from Memphis, and we were inducted into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame in 2018. And Justin Timberlake is also from Memphis. And he was inducted into the Memphis Hall of Fame. So I had gotten as far as, Justin's personal manager, and the idea I had to them was, let's get Justin together with the Box Tops and redo the letter, with, maybe keeping it, everybody would know what song it would be. But he would sing a verse, we would sing a verse, maybe modernize the sound, the orchestration a little bit. And unfortunately, he never got past there. COVID. This was right before COVID. It's a good reminder. I should try to reach out again.
You should.
Yeah. Because you need a song that's. I mean, you can always do a new song too. But there's something when you have a song that's so big, that was so big all over the whole world, to do it. And it's been covered hundreds and hundreds of times, by all kinds of artists. Of course, Joe Cocker had a huge, he had a huge version of the letter. But to redo it now with the Box Tops and somebody else would be really cool. Yeah, I think I'll have to put my thinking cap back on about that. Yeah, it's interesting because we have for a band that was never famous, the Limits now, not the Box Tops. We have a really nice cult following all over the world. People and that's, thanks to Cleopatra and stuff, because we've been written up in all these indie magazines and whether they're from England or from France, from Germany. So we're known. So, it would be, it would be fun. Matter of fact, we were actually live performing every few years up until the last one we did was 2019. I would go up. The other guys were all still around the Northeast part of the country. I'd fly up but then one of the guys passed away, and then another guy passed away, and so now of the original gang, there's only 3 of us, and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? It's like, I think I would personally, if I went back home to Allentown, PA, and we wanted to do something, we'd have a ton of people that would come out. I think it would be more fun at this stage to do like a sit down, unplugged thing, couple acoustic guitars, a piano, play some of the songs, but more talk about the whole era.
Yeah.
What was our town like back then? What was the scene like back then? Some of the other local bands, maybe have some of the other local band, guys come up and sing a song with us. Now that I would like to do, as opposed to getting the whole band back together. That would be, we'd have to hire all these guys that had nothing to do with us, and that would be hard. We just lost past December, another one of the guys, and it's, people say it and it sounds like a cliche, but these guys become your brothers. I guess it's like in the military, they're your brothers. It's the same thing. One of the guys from the Limits, Bo Jones, he and I were inseparable. We went on, besides music, we had this whole spiritual thing that we were involved in, and he passed away in 2010. And there isn't a day goes by that matter of fact, I have in my living room, I have a big picture painting of he and I from 1969, wow. And there isn't a day that, that I don't think about him and stuff like that. So, but I feel lucky that we had those times, and then that, sometimes we wonder, did we make a difference? Was it worth it? Then I remember my son telling me, he said, Dad, it's like, all these years you're touring and seeing thousands and thousands of people. You make all these people happy, even if it's for an hour and a half. You make these people happy, And I never, in all the years, I never thought that way, because you start thinking about, are you successful or not successful? Did you make it or didn't you make it? Or, and then that was like, holy shit, that was like eureka, I mean, yeah, you want to be successful, but then I look at the number of Facebook friends that I have that started as fans, but they're friends, and they follow me and they follow my pottery work. And, I have a local duo, me and another guy play around St. Augustine, and it's fun. It's just fun, and it's like, some people say, well, why do you do this local stuff? You hardly make any money, you're with the box tops. I said, well, because I'm a musician, it's like, we play music, I don't think I'd want to do it every night of the week, but once or twice a week we go out and, play. And here it's like paradise, play at a place on the beach. It's, it's a lot of fun too. I don't think I want to be playing clubs till 2 or 3 in the morning anymore. I don't think I could, I don't think I could do that. But yeah, so it's a whole, it's a whole lifestyle. You put your heart and soul into it. And, when I circle back to this experience with Rachel, I had almost forgot that the event ever happened.
Wow.
We had lost this child because it was so long ago, and we had been, we weren't married anymore. She, I had gone on to a different life, and she had gone on to a different life. And then out of the clear, you kind of wonder about karma, and is someone sending messages to you? You said you used to do paranormal stuff, and I'm a firm believer that if you're aware, if your antennae are sharp, there are signals out there.
Yeah.
And can you find the ones that help you grow as a person? And this thing of, if I get a little emotional, I'm sorry, but
oh, no, go ahead,
man. I am, I mean, it's a good, I always like the good cry, but like I say, coming back to this experience, just because my buddy said, hey, I found this in the closet, do you remember it? I said, kinda, vaguely, I mean, I remembered, this, but I didn't remember, I honest to God didn't remember, how beautifully we recorded that song, and we were still kids. We were still, I mean, what I consider kids, we didn't have years and years of recording experience. The harmonies in there and everything, just the sound of the 12-string guitar in there, and I don't have that instrument anymore. I wish I did. I had this beautiful Martin 12-string guitar. And when I got it, and then I had it converted, it was actually on vinyl, and I had it converted to MP3, and a WAV file, which is higher resolution, and I listened to it and I said, man, and then one of my buddies, he said, this thing sounds like it's from the John Lennon Mind Games album. And I knew exactly what he was talking about because of the nature of the echo and the reverb in the recording. Okay. Do I care if people like it? I don't think it's the kind of song you like. I think Rachel is the kind of song that either will hit you or won't hit you. I think if you listen to it and you're an aware, maybe you have to have a certain degree of maturity. I think certainly if you're a parent, if you have kids, it could really, but like I said, my ex and I were on the phone, crying with each other, and, and said, man, what a time it was, what a time it was. And everything, everything shapes you, And I just, it's just like, I feel, when I do interviews, and, I do, like when the book came out, I did a lot. I do some for the Box Tops. uh, when different limits projects have come out, I always come back to this feeling fortunate, gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the people around me, grateful for, even though my parents and I would butt heads, when I was a kid and wanted to do this, and, they're saying, when are you going to get a job, but yet without their support, I couldn't have done it, so it's like, and even the pitfalls, I mean, the brief things you told me about your life. I mean, it's this, I think you don't have to be an artist to have an artist sensibility. Let's put it that way, that life is this ongoing thing, and when you least expect it, something can pull you out of a dark place. Something can take you into a dark place. I mean, I've got a lot of dimensions to me, and, like I said, just going from Rachel to the next Box Top show to making an urn for one of my best friend's kid, lost his kid. It's like, I'm giving all these gifts. I don't know where they come from. Where do they come from? You can say God, you can say nature, you can say whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter, but there's more than just us, there's more than, there's all kinds of guides out there, I think, I think as we were talking early on, do what makes you feel good, what you think is, adding something. Try not to be harmful with people. I've written good songs in my life and stuff like that. I wish I'm sure I wish I'd written #1 hits and stuff like that. But just to do it is a good feeling too. To do something that stands up. It stands up to listening. It doesn't sound like a million other songs. And that I can say about Rachel. It doesn't sound like a lot of other songs.
Your website is
ricklevy.com, RICKLEVY.com. And Facebook is just Rick Levy. And Box Tops is just boxtops.com. One word, Box Tops. And that's where they find me. And I answer back. I'm very, I love to meet new people and, email with them and stuff like that. I have no problem with that at all.
And you have your own personal Facebook page, and there are a couple of Facebook.
Yes. I've got, you just look at Rick Levy. There's a couple of us, but you'll see me, so you'll know who it is. We've got the Limits fan page.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got all stuff about the band. We've got the High in the Mid 60s page. So,
well, I will put all the links in the description to make it easy for people to find you.
Great.
I want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, well, I hope you'll come back, hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys rock because you make it possible for me to do this.
Yeah, this is fun. Good job. Thank you guys. And, say hello, come on to Facebook, come on to my website, come to a Box Top show, and say hi. It's a nice thing, man. It's a nice thing.
And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
Rachel